Oh, so that's just demolished his frill. Now we've got a Thunderjaw, which is definitely modeled on a T-Rex, a large theropod dinosaur. Hi there, my name's Joe. I'm a paleontologist at the Natural History Museum and the University of Bath. And today I'm going to be reacting to a few of the machines from Horizon Forbidden West. Okay, we've got a Clawstrider here. This looks to be a raptor, a dromaeosaur type of dinosaur, it's probably based on by the looks of things. They were characterized by their big sort of sickle claws on their feet, so we'll see if that comes into effect. I like the movement. He's kind of like he's sniffing a threat that's in the distance. That's quite cool. So they're going around in at least a pair here. I wonder if they maybe work in packs a little bit that we would probably expect the dinosaurs to do that they're based on. Sort of detail on the arm and the tail has been kind of modeled on a feathered look. Definitely some of, if not all of, the dromaeosaurs would have had feathers. So that's quite cool to see. I like that. I have to say that the hands are in the wrong position. As I often say, they should be more held at the side instead of in front. It's one of the most common sort of mistakes, if you like, that we see as paleontologists is hand position. Certainly in these theropod, the meat-eating predator dinosaurs, they are always, with very few exceptions, portrayed as having their hands out in front of them. And it's just such a simple thing just to rotate them. I'm not sure why that's stuck. Maybe someone did it way back. Maybe it's from like the original Jurassic Park or something, and it's just stuck, and that's just how dinosaurs are modeled. But it's such a simple thing.
Damn it.
I like the kind of musculature that they've added with the machine parts. That's really cool to see as well. You get these big powerful thighs because they would have been really fast runners, and this long tail that they have used for balance, kind of like a cheetah would do in modern times. You know, they move it from side to side as they run really fast. Oh, there's 3 of them now. That's cool. They're working in a pack. They've all spotted us, and they're all coming for us. From the looks of it, these are quite big for a dromaeosaur. That we definitely had big examples of dromaeosaurs. So the largest one that I'm aware of currently is Utah Raptor, and that would have been about 2 meters tall. So these are probably definitely in that kind of big dromaeosaur range. Okay, we've got some Plowhorns here. These are definitely modeled off of a ceratopsian, a triceratops dinosaur. That's cool to see. Looks like they've mainly just kind of walk around with their heads down, grazing. Well, in this case, plowing the land. So their horns are really long, it looks like, in this version. Perhaps a bit longer than we'd expect to see on a triceratops or other ceratopsians. Their frill and their horns were mainly used for display, maybe attracting a mate, and to intimidate predators as well. So the fact that they're even longer in this version is absolutely fine. That's cool. Again, the musculature really gives a lot of weight to it. They would have been like the size of a Range Rover car, enormous, muscled, absolute tanks of dinosaurs. So yeah, they've really got the weight and the feel right there, it looks like. That was interesting. So the Plowhorn there, he reared up on his back legs. We're not entirely sure about how much dinosaurs would have been able to do that. They probably could have done that. They were mainly quadrupedal, so they've walked on all fours most of the time. But to rear up and threaten a predator, I think that's acceptable. Oh, so that's just demolished his frill. The frills probably would have been kind of a bony outline with a thin layer of material, a thin layer of skin and muscle in between. So you could probably damage those quite easily. So that's quite accurate. The 2 small horns underneath are unique to the game. We see in ceratopsians varied dramatically in their ornamentation that were on their heads. So Triceratops is 3 horns. Others had different types, different combinations of horns on their heads, and the ornamentation around the frill as well differed dramatically. Different angles of all these horns pointing down or up, or different positions. The ones below we've not seen. There's none on the lower jaws. In some early elephants, you get tusks coming out of the lower jaw, but not any dinosaur that we found so far. Okay, so we've got a Sunwing here, which is certainly appears to be modelled on a pterosaur. So these weren't dinosaurs, but they were flying reptiles who existed at the same time as the dinosaurs. It's interesting that these are kind of perched there on two legs. They're just kind of sat on their back legs, which is a much more bird-like pose. They've kind of got their wings held at the side, almost kind of just looks like a big pigeon there, really. And we don't really think that the pterosaurs themselves would have sat kind of back on their haunches like that. We think that they were probably, when they were on land, they walked on all fours, so they would use their small hands that had the wings attached. They would walk on those as well. So it's interesting. It looks kind of a combination between a pterosaur and a bird. It looks a bit like it's got sort of a secondary wing at the back there, just coming out of the tail. I've not seen that before. That's quite cool. But it does look like the wings are modelled quite nicely after a pterosaur there. They look like a membrane instead of feathers, and pterosaurs were not feathered, just the birds are feathered. It does have some feathers at the end, which kind of, again, suggests that it's modelled from a pterosaur crossed with a bird, which that's still cool. I like the design. And as well, on its feet, it's got another really clear bird feature. Its first finger, so its thumb, is rotated all the way backwards, and that's for grasping onto sort of perches and for holding prey, things like that. It's doing a lot of gliding as well, which we expect pterosaurs probably did. We know that they had powered flight, and they could flap their wings and fly and take off. But with an animal of that size, you'd expect it to save energy wherever it could. So to see it kind of gliding down and not actively flapping for quite a bit of the time is quite realistic. So here we have a Tideripper. Looks to be modelled from a plesiosaur. These are the long-necked aquatic reptiles. They're not dinosaurs, but they lived at the same time as the dinosaurs. It's kind of moving a bit more like a walrus, I would say, in terms of when it's on the land, it's using its front flippers to kind of amble along like we see walruses do and mammals do. The plesiosaur itself would have been exclusively aquatic. We don't think it could have survived on land. It's a similar way to a whale in that it's evolved entirely in a water-based existence instead of half on land, half in the sea, and it would just be too heavy to support its own weight on land. A plesiosaur would not have been wandering around on the beach, but it would have been quite scary out at sea, for sure. This is big though. It looks to be a good size for a big plesiosaur. That's quite cool. The flippers are quite well modelled while it's under the water. There's been a lot of studies on kind of the locomotion of these animals, and they look really, really good to me. Someone's put a lot of effort into the way it moves underwater. It does seem to have, at the end of its tail is kind of split like the end of a fish's tail into two fins. They wouldn't have had fins as such because they were evolved from land-based reptiles at some point. So they would have just had a straight tail in most cases. Definitely they've got the weight and the feel of how big and heavy these animals would have been quite well. I like that. They've done that really well. Now we've got a Thunderjaw, which is definitely modelled on a T-Rex, a large theropod dinosaur. And the way it's standing is quite well done, I think. We used to have this idea that a T-Rex would have sort of sat back more like a kangaroo on its back legs. But as time's gone on and we've found more and more fossils, we've realised that they actually had more of a much more horizontal stance along their backbone. So that's really well done. I can't see much evidence of its front limbs, again, which we would expect to see. It invested a lot of its energy and its growth into its back legs and its jaw. So you have to have some sort of payoff between things. You can't have everything big and really effective. It's certainly stalking around, looking for prey. I assume in the game it has, really enhanced sensors, which we would expect an apex predator like this to have. It would have had binocular vision, really keen eyesight, strong sense of smell. We found casts of T-Rex brains, and we know that their sensors were all highly developed. Some of the best vision and smell in the animal kingdom. So that's cool. Yeah, and again, they've really got the bulk and the size and the feeling of weight of this animal. Really, really well done. So you can see the leg muscles and the tail just past the back legs as well are just thick with muscle. And this would have enabled the T-Rex or similar dinosaurs as well to sort of run really, really quite fast. And to hold that much weight in its body, it had to have these really strong muscles supporting it. I think my favorite was the first one, the Dromaeosaur, Clawstrider. That was kind of the best example of the most accurate one, dare I say. And it had, I like the way it moved and the way it was hunting and sniffing things out. I think that was really cool. Yeah. Overall, I'd say that the machine designs in the game are really, really good. I think they've taken elements from what we know existed in the past, and they've applied that into the setting in quite a clever way. So they've mixed elements of paleontological facts into their sort of machine biology. So that's really cool. And they've added bits that wouldn't have been there in real life, but in the context of the game and the world and the setting, they work really well. I particularly like the sort of weight and the feeling of how big these creatures were and how long it would take to sort of take one of them down as well. That was really cool.
For more on Forbidden West, make sure to watch our review or our other video with Joe where he reacts to the Jurassic Park trilogy.